Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tim O'Donnell, the newspaper cries out today, he was just a bloody good bugger. I want to associate myself with the comments made by party leaders earlier in the House today. Something like this brings back memories of a close shave I had something like 10 years ago when the bullets ripped through the skin of the helicopter in which you're flying, when the co-pilot starts screaming for more power on the rotor that's trying to claw you up over a ridge. I think that those sort of thoughts will have gone through the heads of all of our people in Bamiyan over the last few days. Mr. Speaker, why, when you think about these things, do you really end up in the side of thinking, well, luck was with you or luck was against you, and unfortunately luck was not with O'Donnell yesterday afternoon in Bamiyan. Mr. Speaker, the roots of this democracy can be traced back to England and its Parliament, a precursor to this place that we stand in today. I reckon there's about 116 democracies in the world, and members of Parliament in this Parliament have witnessed the swiftest advance of freedom, because if you go back to the 1970s, there were about 40 democracies, and I think we've seen the fastest growth in democracy across the globe. Mr. Speaker, for more than 100 years, generations of New Zealanders, young New Zealanders, have served with courage, with selflessness, with endurance, and often in appalling conditions. I met some last weekend in Dannevirke, a 92-year-old who was given an RSA gold bar. Tim O'Donnell leaves us with a legacy of courage, the putting down of one's own individuality, the commitment to a wider cause. His untimely sacrifice is proof that this country is not without immunity from global pressures, and that we're not so remote as a country that in some way we're not a beneficiary of global democratic traditions. I think it is also important to understand that his death confers on us the reality that we're not isolated from other world events, even if it's from our distance. And I think his passing reflects the fact that we come from a country that stood by its allies and interpreted our obligations generously, and we fulfilled them very promptly. The loss we feel today doesn't in any way cancel out the need for us to stand for principle, to confront those who flout the struggle for international order, whether Taliban or whether Al-Qaeda. And that is why we are working in Afghanistan today with our NATO and our ISAF partners to build the capacity of the Afghani government and people. Our soldiers and civilians are working to create the conditions in which new democracy can take place and flourish. Our people are working in Bamiyan to provide inspiration for people oppressed by the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Bamiyan is an example of an area where liberty from the Taliban control and influence would be a powerful trend, because prosperity, social vitality and education and the progress of people in a technological sense are all related to their freedom and to their liberty. Mr. Speaker, we are intending to hand that area and those skills back to the Afghan people. Freedom, we know, unleashes human creativity, and Tim O'Donnell lost his life defending that freedom. And he knew that if freedom is not defended, it can be lost. As the Prime Minister said, we owe it to thousands of New Zealanders who served in Bamiyan to see that the job is done, and that we leave it and we create a situation where we can hand back control to Afghani people. Mr. Speaker, the success of what our forces are doing in Afghanistan rests on their willingness to sacrifice. Our commitment to democracy is tested in the Middle East. It was tested there in the Second World War and earlier. It's been tested in Europe. It's been tested in the Pacific, in Bougainville, in Timor, in the Solomon Islands, and most recently in Fiji. Mr. Speaker, someone has said that we are standing against Islam. I don't believe that is the case, and we look at Turkey and Indonesia as examples. Thank you.
Honourable Terry Anna.